All right, good afternoon. We are live. I am kind of hosting today. Nate is on the side there. He's going to be the co-host. So welcome to the
Him.
Linux Saloon. Welcome, Nate. Welcome, Sharon.
What's up, everyone?
So this is our early edition to help those on the other part of the world join at an earlier time. And let's see. Let me go with the introductions. I'm a little messed up here today, so I'm a little rushed.
Yeah, it's all right.
So welcome to the Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show we will have a talk about a Linux project, generally a Linux distribution, but it could be centered around a desktop environment or application. Anything that is Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. And I already said my hosts is Nate and Shravan so far, and hopefully others will join. What's on the docket today? Well, we'll talk about what we've been Linuxing. We'll have open mic. It's going to be pretty much open mic this afternoon.
Pretty much.
We'll check the menu for application appetizer. We'll have a news flight and community free pour and a last call. So Adam Grubbs has just joined us. He's doing Adam.
He's always doing great. I can answer for him.
I'm gonna take the place of Norbert. I'm gonna type real loud on my key.
Well, you have to do it really loud though. Like it sounds like drums on your head. That's how it's got to sound.
Boy, I can't even spell it. Welcome, everybody. Wow. Okay. So anybody been Linuxing this week?
Well, I can share some fun Linux adventure I've been having. Now it's an adventure in progress, and I had to press pause on it because of other, things getting in the way. But I'm playing with DMX lights, and it's with open source DMX adapter to go from USB to DMX, and then driving like those RGB DMX lights, like they've used for like soundstage type lighting. So I'm getting ready for Christmas. I know it's a little bit early, but Christmas comes once a year, and it's only 6 months away until the Christmas season starts. So I want to light up the inside of my front porch of my house, be able to do like different like lighting effects inside of it, like basically take advantage of that space. It'll be much easier to do, I think, much easier to do than actually like adding more lights like on the outside of the house. I'll just do them internally. I think it'll be fun. I don't know how it's going to work out. It's 4 lights I purchased, and I'm trying to understand how DMX works still. I'm a little bit slow, but I'm sort of getting there. Everything has got like a specific address it's got to be, and then it's not too far from like the pixel lights now in concept, where each light color has a channel. So it's the same kind of thing. So right now I'm just trying to get the software to talk to it, and then once I can do some things with that, then I'll move on to start integrating it into my my home lighting system. So I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, because I'm still trying to get through all the documentation, but that's the plan. So I'm using QLC Plus is the name of the application on Linux for messing with lights. It's like for doing like stage lights. And so right now it's recognized everything, and now it's just a matter of like trying to create sequences in that. Totally separate. I was trying to create sequences in that and so forth. So I'm learning that.
Very good. What have you been doing, Shravan?
I've been trying to get audio work on my Odroid single board computer. So Odroid is like Raspberry Pi. It's also it's a company. It's a series of single board computers made by Hard Kernel based out of South Korea. But it doesn't have as huge of a company and has as huge of a community behind it. So I've been trying to like debug certain issues like getting sound to work over HDMI. And there are compositor issues. Whenever compositor is enabled, especially in KDE, there is a lot of flickering, and that goes away if there is no compositor. So that's like some of the issues I've been trying to solve, and it's very hard. I don't know what I'm doing. It's HDMI issues probably related to kernels. I've been trying different package builds from Manjaro, and there's a project called Archdroid, which tries to support Odroid single board computers on Arch Linux ARM. So I've been trying like different things, and I've not been successful so far.
Okay.
What things have you been trying? Like what kind of You said did you say something about Lineage on there?
Yeah,
is that-
so no, this is different. So last week for my phone, which is OnePlus 5,
Mhm.
Lineage OS 19.1, they released it. 19.1 actually started last month, but it was not for all phones. It's like it depends on how your individual phones, like maintainers, upgrade from 18.1 to 19.1, because there's generally a huge upgrade. This happens every year. So I got mine like last week. So I've upgraded from Android 11 to Android 12, which when you go from Lineage OS 18 to 19, it's been really good. I really like the look and feel of Android 12. There's a good feature. Sometimes I think it's good, sometimes it's bad. It's like the accent color for your phone is taken automatically from your wallpaper. So my wallpaper is like purplish, so it's like a light purple. So I don't think you can you had an option to change that in Android 11, but it seems you don't have an Android 12. That's good. But overall, the phone looks good, feels good. It's not that huge of a change. I don't know what different things change from Android 11 to 12, but yeah, I have the latest Android on my 5-year-old phone. I can't ask for anything more.
Nice. How is the performance on it? I mean, since it is
It's
a 5-year-old
awesome.
phone.
Like I think I talked about this before. Like I wanted to throw my phone a year ago. So first thing I did was replace the battery. And then even then I had issues on like, okay, let me try to put Lineage on it. And I did it last November. And I don't want to throw my phone anymore. It's really good. I don't even want to replace my phone. It's like, I think my phone was $500 when I bought it. It's running awesome for 5 years, and it probably run for 2 years more. I'll probably not replace the battery again. I think next time I'll buy a new phone, but just replacing your phone battery and changing the OS, it's 5 years. It's good.
Replacing a battery on a phone that was not meant to have a user replaceable battery is such a pain. Like,
yes, I had a pay. Do you know what happened? So I was taking a help of a friend to do that. Like he's like a little bit stronger than me.
Mhm.
Like we were trying to eject the SIM card using a device which came with the iFixit kit.
Yep.
And it somehow wasn't made of metal. It was made of plastic coated with like a shiny substance. He put too much force on it, so it broke. So I
Nice.
couldn't get the SIM card out. And without that, I can't like separate the individual layers. So it's such a pain, as you said. I somehow, after like 45 minutes of struggling, I was like, let me take a safety pin. I then pushed it hard, and then the SIM card tray came out, and then I started disassembling. And once I started the process, at the end, that small bit of plastic came loose and I could remove it. It was a fun experience. I was like, am I really going to buy a new phone for that small bit of plastic which is stuck there?
I mean, it just takes one slight failure to take the whole phone down. That's funny.
Yeah,
You must
I
have
have
been saving some money on parts.
I have a
Also,
cracked
one more
lens.
thing. I did like replace my laptop battery. I think I replaced it last Sunday. So now my laptop is also good. Again, it's a 5-year-old laptop. I bought my laptop at 400 at the same time. So I think I've extended my life on that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, talking about phone. I mean, I don't want to. I cracked the screen on my S8, and I'm like, until the phone dies, I'm just not gonna. I will run. I just refuse to buy new phones unless it stops working. And that I had an S3 for like 5 years, and it was functional. But I was looking into watching videos on that on how to replace the glass on it, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. You need like one of those air heaters and priors, and I'm like, maybe I should take it to I break, you fix, or you break, I fix, whatever they're called. And I'm like, I'll just decisions to make to save some money.
Steve, I have all those tools right there.
Yeah.
No, but I won't touch phones anymore. I hate phones and tablets.
I mean, I might take a go at it if I get another phone just to be able to do it, but it's like, nah.
Speaking of
go ahead, Adam.
I was gonna say, speaking of electronics repair, I actually just repaired a Xbox One X that I had
Nice.
thought was gone, thought was dead. I had suspected that it was the hard drive that was in there that was bad. The hard drive is not user replaceable. It's not officially user replaceable, but you can do it. And I did that over a couple days ago, and works great. Still works fine and everything. And when I had contacted Microsoft about it because it was out of warranty when it busted, of course, it was going to be like $250 for them. And I have a special edition of the console that they only made so many of, and they couldn't guarantee me that I could get my unit back.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, I don't want to send it to them and then not get the special one that I went on my way to get. And so just repaired it myself.
Yeah, when you mentioned that, I think I mentioned that I replaced the hard drive on a Wii, and actually now that I think about it, it was actually the
optical drive.
the optical drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. You still needed. It was a weird, twisty, triangle-y tool.
Yeah, a tri bit. Yeah, tri-wing bit.
But I was able to get it, and it lasted us another few years until he got the Wii U, But I think we still have the Wii. Gave it away. So yeah, it's always great when you can fix something, right?
Yeah.
And then you're also dabbling in some maybe some audio stuff or looking into it.
Yeah, I'm still pretty early on that. I'm not really sure where I'm going to go with that. Just looking into different audio interfaces and mixers and things.
Ooh.
But
what are you thinking about right now?
Well, I was looking at the Razer makes this like sort of quasi software, quasi hardware based one. And there were a couple others like Go XLR, but that was kind of expensive. I didn't really think I wanted to spend that much money on it. All of the like standard, like, I don't know, professional or whatever, like audio mixers don't really do what I want them to, because they seem they're for a totally different audience than like live streamers and stuff. So it's kind of that.
What is the this one from Razer? Do you have like links or anything that you can share? What's it called?
You can just Google search like Razer mixer and it'll tell you. I can't remember the name of it.
Razer audio mixer, all-in-one analog mixer for broadcasting and
yeah. So it's like it has like the XLR input for your microphone, but it has some other outputs, and most of the stuff is handled in software. So it's a matter of like a compression and stuff like that it's on the device, but you control it through the software instead of like knobs and stuff on the mixer itself. It's a lot smaller. I looked at most of these mixers they look pretty big, and I don't have a whole lot of desk space to go around. So
well, it looks like a neat device. So does it require like Windows then to use the software? Do they have an open source?
Yeah, it does use Windows.
Oh, okay.
I don't think there's any kind of Linux equivalent for the software. I know there are like open Razer stuff, but I don't think those are mostly like keyboards and mice, not this kind of stuff. But I stream under Windows anyway, so
Yeah,
it just
that
works
makes
better
sense,
for
right?
me. I mean, I've done streaming under Linux, but my capture card just doesn't. It can work under Linux, but man, is it finicky. And despite my best efforts, I just couldn't get a good quality out of it.
Hey, do what's best for you, right?
This is my capture card, and it
Which
it
one
works
is
quite
that?
well. It just says 4K Ultra HD HDMI video capture with loop out.
How much is it?
If you get it on eBay, it was like $20, maybe less.
Oh, cool. I
Neat.
was probably thinking of buying one. I'm probably not doing any streaming, but it's a good option to have.
Well, it's good for like if you just want to capture video from a thing. Not even for streaming. I use it for video capture, and it does quite well.
So I might have a use case for it. So basically, if I want to run a single board computer HDMI output, I just want it on my laptop. Can I get it easily? Is that a use case?
That's exactly it. I use it for that very
use for
purpose. I use it for that very purpose, so I can actually view whatever like was coming from the device.
Oh, so it looks like I'm spending $20 then.
Yeah, it was cheap. It was plug, and then I play, and then there's some issues like with OBS. I'd have to have it a certain setting, like in some like they have like 4 different like video settings. I have to use one that says emulated B that starts with a B. I don't know what it is right now, but that was that was my only real gripe with it, is that I had to faff around with the settings. But I mean, every other bit of software like VLC could pick it up, and I could play it through VLC or my webcam app, Web Plasmoid would play it, no problem. So it was just understanding how to use OBS.
But there's
and
no
video
audio,
capture.
right? There's only video.
No, audio too, yeah.
Audio
audio
too?
too.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And the latency is acceptable. I mean, to the point where I could play a video game and not be annoyed. So
Yeah, I picked up. I can't remember the name. It's downstairs right now, but I have one. Actually, it was from a video recommendation, or from a video recommendation from Vern on the Linux Gamecast, and it was a USB one. I can get it to work partially. I guess it depends. It's strictly 1920 by 1080, and when I'm doing it off of, say, a laptop with a lower screen, because I was hoping to use it to, like, for installs and things like that. It was until I learned about NDI and now teleport, and it would cut off a corner, like the right hand side and the lower bottom of the screen, on anything that wasn't coming from a 1920 by 1080 resolution. So I haven't played with it a whole lot. It works pretty good if I hook it up to the TV or anything like that. I get a pretty good hookup. But I know because Adam was using it. Well, you were using a capture card too for a while there. Is that what you use, Adam?
I use my capture card is an AverMedia Live Gamer 4K. It's a PCI Express capture card. It's really nice because it'll not only just pass through 4K, but it also record 4K 60 or 1440. I think 144. 1440 144 and 1080p 144. But it also does HDR capture and HDR tone mapping for people who don't have HDR displays. So if I stream an HDR game, you'll get the tone map version of an HDR game on your end. There's a lot of other options, like it supports 4K at full 444 chroma subsampling instead of 422 or 420. When I used it in Linux, it limited me to 422. Just things like that. Like, it's a pretty nice card. Super low latency. Extremely low latency But it was pretty expensive when I bought it. I think it was like 250 or something when I bought it. So yeah, not the eBay budget item, but it's pretty awesome.
well, the thing is, if it works great for you, then that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm so cheap, when I drop a penny, it usually hits me in the back of the head. So
No. I mean, there are just great options out there that aren't super expensive either. Like that's kind of the thing. When I bought this, capture cards have been around for a while, but they weren't super great. And now it seems like things are, I guess because the influx in streaming and YouTubing and whatnot, it's that kind of market is saturated with all kinds of good options now.
yeah, that's probably pretty accurate.
Well, my Linuxy thing kind of this week, kind of Linuxy. I, after the stream last Sunday, after the Linux coffee watch, I every about once a month or so, I take the the PC down to the garage, and I get the air hose and I blow out the cake of dust that builds up in it. And while I was in there, I'm going, you know what? Let me put in the 2 terabyte hard drive I bought, I think was for my birthday last September. And I think I might have outdone Michael because I just opened it last week. It was still sealed. To start doing proper backups in that, I had a couple of hard drive fails in the past, and I said, well, I got this open, let me set it up. And I was trying to decide how I wanted to do it. I'm not real great at partitioning in that. And, Adam had kind of just suggested maybe just keep with NTFS and not have to deal with Linux permissions, because what I wanted, I have our main system that I let the family run on is Pop, and I run on an icy dock. So I have three other SSDs in there, and this one of the other SSDs is my Pop production system. I keep that separate from the family, and then I'm been working on with the new Peppermint and that, and then like the fourth bay is I think I got MX21 on there now, but that's like my testing one that I can test on my desktop, and I want to be able to back up or share files, and the permission thing was getting to me, so I'm like I then decided to take the partition, the ext4, shrink that, and I made an exFAT partition. So that will be, I'll have a backup for the main system to run backups, and then the storage side, I labeled it storage with exFAT. So now I can share files across all different SSDs that I put in to my icy dock, whether I want to try out like OBS on something and that, instead of having to pull, like USB and going back and forth. I did have to, even though I think exFAT is in the kernel now, you have to still the exFAT utils is no longer available. You have to install exFAT prog. I have to look it up, but there's another command that you do to be able to get things like gparted or GNOME disks, be able to read and put on exFAT, and it's been working exactly the way I want it to. Oh, it was really nice for me. That's a big thing. So now I just have to get the backup going on my main system.
What software are you using, Steve, for backup?
I haven't decided yet. I don't have one set up yet.
So I use for my offline backups, I think they're called offline backups, where I plug in a drive, have it do it, unplug it so it's offline, and then put it in a drawer. I do those weekly, and I use Back in Time.
Okay.
But it's a Qt application. I know you you generally use UGK based desktops. But outside of that, I basically use SyncThing, and I synchronize a bunch of machines around, and that's my online. It's not really a backup solution, really, but
It's
it is what I'm
technically
using.
not backup, because once you delete a file somewhere, it generally goes and deletes everywhere. Like I
Well,
use SyncThing on all my computers too.
It keeps history though, so I have it
Yes.
set to keep. So just if you delete it, you still have it until, yeah. But then anyway, so it allows me a little bit of, between those two, I have a decent enough backup strategy that I'm pretty confident that I won't lose a bunch of garbage.
Yeah,
Essentially.
there's a bunch of solutions out there. There's, what Deja Dupe, there's Time Machine, there's probably a couple others. I don't need, all I'm concerned about, and where I failed before, is I lost a bunch of, it's talk what you want. I'm glad that I uploaded all my photos up to Google Photos, because I really burned out my drive, where I couldn't even recover from using photo rec to recover files and that. So I'm able to download my photos back in that, but I would be just more interested in backing up like some of the home folders to have those for the future, where I wouldn't have the issue that when I screw up, I really screw up. That won't happen. So I just need something relatively simple. I don't need to back up like the whole home folder or anything else like that. I don't care about that. I just the main thing is the family stuff, all the music. In fact, I'm looking. I go, I know I got a ton of music here. Where I forgot I did put that on another drive. Now I got to hook that up to bring that back in. So, but I'm gonna start. I got to start going. So happy with that.
As long as you got to start, that's what's important. Making progress, getting to that ultimate goal.
Anybody?
So what's the
Oh, go ahead.
other backup software you have mentioned, Nate, apart from SyncThing? What other software do you use apart from SyncThing for your backup?
It's called Back in Time. It's
Back in
basically an
Time,
R.
yeah, I've heard of it.
It's just an rsync front end is all it is.
Yep.
Nothing exciting.
Yeah, I tried. In fact, it was through a video that our good friend Alan Pope was doing, all the things that he reinstalled on a system when he nukes and paves, and one of them was SyncThing. And I looked at it when I first installed it on the first couple of on my computer and on my laptop. It seemed to work fine, and I don't know, Nate. When you install, do you have to have all your systems going? Because it seems like
Nope.
when I added it to a third laptop, everything kind of changed, and I was having lots of problems with it. And so right now, I have a simple solution. I use. I don't think it's maintained much these days, but it still works really well. It's called LAN share. And all you got to do is have the two systems up that you want, and you can share, between them. And I got LAN share on all my laptops and all my, on my desktop and all that. It's a simple solution. It doesn't do it automatically, but it works for me. It's better than plugging in a USB and unplugging, and going back and forth.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the reason, so I don't have any issues with that. I have several computers that are sharing everything amongst themselves, and every once in a while I get like a file that like can't be shared, and I don't know what causes that. Generally, I'll just delete that file because it's nothing significant anyway. But so I have my server backed up to my main server. They're all synchronizing to that one, but they also synchronize to each other too, so that if the server's down, if I'm restarting the server or doing something along those lines, then I don't, it's just one of the nodes on the SyncThing network in my house, essentially. So I only, they don't all need each other, essentially, because they're syncing to multiple.
Also, you can
devices.
choose which folders you want to sync between what computers.
Right.
So, and you can also, like, I have SyncThing on my phone too. I just sync my
Same.
notes and I sync. I have a common folder called sync between
Yep.
all the different computers, and I have a folder for notes which are synced across all computers. But other than that, I sync like selective stuff. For example, I have a caliber collection which I sync only from my main laptop across to my Raspberry Pi server. So which I can like set up an online server for Caliber. But I do like selective things, and it's very good with that. And also, I also created a server for sharing some files with like our development team. And for that, also I use SyncThing to sync between like two computers, and also like I host it on a HTTPS server. So SyncThing is very flexible, and you can choose what sort of syncing you want. Like it can be one way or two ways. So that thing is good. And as Nate says, there is a history part. I haven't figured out how to use that yet because I haven't lost any files due to SyncThing. So probably I should look at the feature how to recover files if I by mistake delete something somewhere. But it's a really cool tool. I hope it had a better CLI option, but you have to do everything like on a Firefox, like a browser window, or there are some GUI front ends. But I hope you can do more configuration, like accepting connections via CLI. I've tried, but I wasn't successful.
QSyncThing tray is what I use on my systems.
Yes, that's
it's
good.
It's just very simple. It just opens up a little like browser window essentially, and then I can do everything through that.
So do you leave all your laptops on, or is it if you open one up, you have it where SyncThing starts up, and and whatever was sent through comes in? Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep. And it's really simple to set up. I feel like it's a pretty secure how you authenticate different hosts with one another. If you allow the port open, the SyncThing port open, it will actually see the other one. You can actually select it, and it's a big long chain of numbers, and so and then you have to approve the other computer for the node to be able to sync. So just because you have that number doesn't mean it's going to approve. They're going to get it automatically. So it's not as maybe digestible as like a Google Drive sync, but I think it works better in many cases. Worse in some, but better in most.
And also the good thing is that like I have a small issue with the Android app. It drains battery when it's continuously syncing. So I generally keep the syncing off. But when you start the syncing app, it syncs pretty fast because I'm syncing only notes for the most part to my phone. So it's pretty fast. And then another good thing is that if there's sync conflicts, it saves both files
Yep.
with a sync conflict like extension. So you can
And a
go
date.
there and manually fix. It's easier
Mhm.
when it's text files, you know what's changed, but it's applicable for other files too.
Yeah, I use SyncThing also to synchronize my notes. Servan and I are basically brothers here, and we do the same things. So the only system I actually had a problem with SyncThing was actually on a Windows system. I was setting up SyncThing for an office for church to synchronize data to a Raspberry Pi device that would show slideshow. I'm not using that system anymore at all. I'm using a different application now. But setting that, so they had an issue where SyncThing would keep shutting itself off on Windows and it wouldn't stay running. And so it was not a good solution for Windows, but they may have changed and improved that by now. But it did work. It just didn't work well.
So, as we're talking about mobile, so what are mobile solutions?
I've always wanted to have, or I'm a big fan of I'm not a fan of mobile devices at all. I almost lied there. I apologize. I take it back. And I'm always excited about the idea of having a complete Linux phone. I do have a Pine phone, and I will say the experience is lackluster. It's a little bit slow, a little bit pokey, but I've opened SUSE Tumbleweed on there with of course, because what else would I put on there, right? I mean, is there another distribution? I don't know. Anyway, so it does work very well. Is it doing it? It was doing it, and now it's not. Anyway, so also I've been playing with Ubuntu Touch as well, and it's a little bit pokey, but it does work. And my issue is there's sometimes like it would be, if I went to this, I would feel like I would be going back in time a little bit. And I don't mean like, using iOS back in time, but more like my first smartphone is an iPhone, and it didn't have things like copy and paste. It's really weird things it couldn't do. But anyway, so it's like the Telegram app is just okay. And some of the user interface stuff is just a little bit wonky. And then I can't do like if there's a way to do authenticator apps, I don't know how to do that yet. So I feel like it's close, but not quite there. So anytime I see some more work being done on it, I get excited. Like there's GNOME Shell for mobile. Now I'm not a GNOME user, but the fact that there's more effort being put toward it, it's not a detractor from the whole ecosystem as far as I'm concerned. It's more work being done on it, that someone is excited about. I'm a little bit, I don't really understand why it's not, because Posh is another mobile GTK base that's done by Purism, the ones that kind of kick that off. But does anybody remember WebOS?
I've heard of it. I've never.
The WebOS was probably the best mobile operating system, arguably the best operating system that came out. And then HP basically squandered it. They bought Palm OS, called it WebOS, and they didn't really I still have an HP tablet from 2009, 10. I don't know when it came out. So it's like 5 years old. I'm bad at math. It was a great tablet, especially in its day. I have Android on it now because WebOS is a little dated. But it was such a good user interface. It was way better than iOS. It was way better than Android. But HP just totally squandered it. In fact, I was irritated with HP for probably a good 6 years after that.
But I think the issue for mobile is that the ecosystem has to be there. Like you need to have the apps, you need to have like as I said, good UI for the basic interface, but also like how about the app selection, like in the Pine phone you're on? Like do you have all apps or is it a very limited selection of apps?
Oh, I have a lot of applications on it. I can quite literally run any Linux application on the phone that is in the OpenSUSE repository.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So, okay, it's good, but they're not made to run on a mobile interface. And when you want to use the terminal, it's kind of it's awesome having a terminal on a little phone, but it's terrible using that terminal on a little phone. So it's
Yep.
kind of
I
it's
agree.
so it's kind of a mixed bag. I think it would be better. Well, here's the other problem too. Although I love OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, it's a great user experience for me. When I want to update it, I have to go into terminal and sudo zip or dup it. Otherwise, it's not going to update. And do you know how hard that is to do in the terminal on a mobile device? So yeah.
I have termux on my Android phone. I sometimes SSH onto my Pi from my bed when I'm about to sleep if I want to do something. If I want to check
Right.
something running on, like I run Biobu, which is a tmux front end. So it's like I can SSH onto from any, it's a server running until you decide to kill it. So I can SSH on termux in my phone, and it's awful. I just figured out how to use function keys. It seems you have to use the volume up button and the number to get function keys working on termux. So it's not a very good experience when you have like a 5-inch phone. It's like you want to use a terminal on it, and it's like half the screen is taken from the keyboard.
Right, but keyboard, yeah, exactly.
I can barely type on these to begin with.
Yeah.
I'm not a thumb
exactly.
guy, and then and it's like my finger's a bit curved, so I'm always hitting the letter next to the letter I want.
Steve, my hands are small, and I want to type some commands, and it never works. And luckily, I have like autocorrect in my ZSH shell, so most of the time it's autocomplete. I just need to hit the arrow buttons because I'm not like running exotic commands from it when I'm SSHing onto it. I'm like generally running old commands, so that's fine. Otherwise, it's like, how do you? It's not a good experience. I've had better experience using my iPad. I use something called Blinkshaw. I bought like a preview of it. So it's a preview version, so it's free. It's not actually free, but you can run again SSH from an iPad, and that's much better because the screen realistic is better. But even then, sometimes like you can't run some TUI apps like HTOP, BTOP. Some of the things don't work very well because they require the screen to be certain size. Otherwise, it's a much better experience on iPad using terminal there because the screen is much bigger.
Yeah, I wouldn't have considered an iPad, and not to rehash something from Saloon past, but the whole now that KDE Connect works in iOS. Have you tried KDE Connect on that iPad?
No.
No. Okay. I'm interested.
I'm
like,
running
if so,
KDE now.
well, you don't have to run KDE to use KDE Connect. You can actually run on any desktop environment. It takes a little bit of massaging for some more than others, but it'll work. I actually run KDE Connect in the terminal for XFCE, MX Linux even.
Like what I figured out, I've tried using some of these like integration with desktop apps, but I generally prefer to have my phone and computer separate. Like my phone does my phone things, and my computer does my computer things. If I want to look at messages, I'll just look at my phone because it's right next to me.
Okay,
if I want to look at it, and there's OnePlus has a very good LED light which blinks different colors depends on what's there. So I generally
cool.
So if it is Gmail, it's red blinking, like not red exactly, that pinkish blinking. If my battery is low, it's like it's not a blinking, it's like a red continuous light. If it is a message, it's green blinking, right? Like it's different kinds of message. Like once you use your phone for 5 years, you know what light it is. So
right.
it's I've tried the phone integration thing for like 3-4 months. It's like, why am I getting random notifications on my desktop? This is like not productive for me when I'm working. If I want to look at my phone, I look on my phone.
Well, that's fair. So for me, it's some of the notifications that I want. Like I have certain applications on the phone that I want to have those notifications on my desktop. And then the other thing too is I like the integration for like multimedia, so I can stop and start things with my phone really easily.
Nice.
And also the clipboard is the other thing too. And then also I hate typing on the phone, so I like to use the the keyboard to interact with it. So
KDE Connect is an awesome piece of software.
Have you tried swipe keyboards, like swipe settings and keyboards? Yes. That's much better than actual typing. I'm still terrible. Between both sometimes because I'm still used to the older way, but sometimes I want to use swipe. My brain remembers you can use swipe, I use swipe. It's much easier.
It is, but then you forget where the letter is, and it's like you stop and it's like, what did I just type? You know,
Well,
it's like that
I'm
joke,
sure-
you know, that you see where, you know, someone sends something really raunchy and it's come close. And I'm like, oh, I can't send that. You know, it's like it would be taken wrong. Wasn't wrong, you know, but sorry, Nate.
Maybe I was going to say probably you have to be very careful because you probably being in management at in a retail, I imagine there's a lot of 4-letter expletive words that you'd probably use on a regular basis over the cell phone. So it's those things probably pop up as I'm just kidding. I'm just poking. Just a poking.
Yeah, I almost sent something to my boss the other day. It's like, whoa, that would have been,
Oops.
yeah.
It's funny
I
you
always-
mentioned the it's funny you mentioned the typo thing at work. Little story. I
Ooh,
had
I love
a
stories like this.
I had a extension for Chrome called Cloud to Butt Plus, and it basically would on the website replace the word cloud with butt. So like it just made it fun to read about cloud computing stuff, right? So like like you go to Adobe Butt, Creative Butt was the product, right? So I didn't realize that this affected many other web apps, but I was typing up a nice email, talking about some cloud infrastructure stuff at work. And I guess the extension decided to change the entry of the word cloud in my email before sending it. So I sent out an email talking about our butt infrastructure. And my boss emails me back. He's like, "Butt infrastructure," and I'm confused. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And like he said, like, "Check your email." I'm like, "Oh yeah, oops." So I just got rid of that extension and didn't look back. But it was I'd been working there for like maybe 2 months.
Nice.
So like, yeah,
That's awesome. On so many levels.
it was pretty awesome.
And predictive typing or predicted typing can be good
Yeah.
and pretty bad. You know,
Sometimes I like to send blocks of text, like just keep tapping the center one and just
Yep,
let it like create a random nonsense message.
Yeah, that's fun to do for sure.
But-
I once had a coworker in an office setting. I had to use a specific system and only his computer allowed anybody access to it because something was broken on the network. And so I was using his computer and he left the room, which was his mistake. And so I put a rule in his Microsoft Office that every time he would type in his last name, it would just automatically change it to Sparkle Poopy Pants. And
oh,
he didn't notice it right away. And so then when because other people use his computer too, it wasn't just me, and it's like everyone had to use it for a specific function. And so it was like the next day and he blamed me, and I said, no, it was probably Therese, who's like 58 years old at the time. I said, she's quite the computer, she would probably do something like that. There's no way I would pull any kind of a prank on you. And Therese could barely turn a computer on. So anyway, there was I didn't get blamed for it, but he actually stole my lunch until I fixed it. So he stole my lunch money. Anyway.
I got a good story, but it has to be after the show. So I can't,
Okay.
it's fun.
So anyway, so back to the mobile thing. There's another one.
Gnome Shell. So I mean, did you finish up on Gnome Shell or
Well, what I'm
you
saying is
started
like
talking about WebOS.
Yeah, right. So there's anyway, so the point is it's interesting to see that now it's coming along. It's coming along very nicely. I have I'll put a link to OMG Ubuntu in the chat here and here. And then so it looks really nice. It looks like it'd be a good experience. I mean, it has a very modern feel to it. And I mean I don't know if there's, what do you think? I mean, do you think it looks like that this, if you look at the animation of it going, it looks like it works really well. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it kind of reminds me of WebOS a little bit and how it looks and seeing it work. But I don't know. I think it'd be pretty great to see a real nice anybody can use real Linux phone.
And I
It-
haven't
it
thought about
looks-
WebOS in a long time.
It doesn't quite look gnome shellish, but
Right. It looks nice.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
yeah, I wish I could get my buddy Joe on. He was in mobile. He worked for Motorola for many years, and the first series of cell phones. He's got quite a few patents out on them and that. But he told me an interesting story, and I can't even remember, and I probably butchered the story, but how kind of Android became the prominent phone system out there, where one was even better, but the company kind of screwed up and didn't think that, didn't really push anything. They didn't think that Android would get anywhere, and they kind of failed. I got it's an excellent story. He told me it one night when we were out drinking. It was like, oh, dude, you got to get on and talk about this. He's been busy and all that work. The history, like, why did Windows become number one? Windows 31.
Or why did Microsoft DOS become the de facto? Because it was originally called PC DOS when it was part of IBM, and the competitor was CPM, which DOS was loosely based on, the structure of it. And so you could, and it basically boiled down to, I think, Gary Kildau, who started CPM. I think it was Digital Research, I think was the name of the company. He happened to be in a plane when the phone call was being made, and so he missed the phone call. Essentially, that's something like that. I could be a little off on the details, but anyway, it was very interesting to see like what became the prominent thing and why. That was because of IBM.
Mm.
Now IBM owns Red Hat, so there we go.
Well, what do we want to talk about next?
Well, I thought this was interesting. So Kden Live has become a lot more popular as of recent. It's being, more people are using it. It works more than on just Linux. And now there is this scam out there where people are using something called Light Moon. Now it is not Kden Live, but it's basically spoofing like it is. So Kden Live posted on their website that they were notified of a site that is using Kden Live's name and likeness to distribute malware to users. So the link to the website will not be this in the. I don't have a link to the site because they don't want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want anybody to have it. But it lands you on a site offering something called Light Moon. The screenshots look identical to Kden Live, but it's malware. So now where I was want to talk about this is if someone's taking the time to utilize free software like Kden Live to distribute malware, does that mean is that a sign that this is the year of the Linux desktop because they're finally using Linuxy things to scam people?
Well, I mean, is it hitting strictly? I mean, it's not, because Kden Live does work on Windows too. It
does.
Is it hitting up?
I'm not sure exactly. I don't know if it works on Windows too, but it does work apparently it does run in Linux. So it's Linux is being targeted. And anyway, the point is, we want to make sure we get your software. I think in Linux we have this or a lot of distributions that we have this as a benefit, that we only get, for the most part, we only get our software from our distribution repositories or FlatHub or the Snap Store. And those can be compromised too, but the difficulty of compromising that is much greater than what is getting some rando application off the internet. I've gone to those dodgy sites to get your DLLs, and I'm always a little bit nervous, like on Windows. I'm talking about. Adam knows what I'm talking about. He probably runs one of those dodgy DLL websites.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's got that. He has that fancy car of his, or had. Anyway, so it's interesting to see that. Well, we have like kind of like a layer of protection, I'd say, in Linux that shields us. But in a lot of ways, Linux is just as vulnerable as Windows or Mac. If you install bad software, you install bad software. But that's where the user can do whatever he wants to destroy a system. So I don't know. What do you think of that? Do you think that's a? Do you think this is a sign of more like this to come? Do you think this is just a blip on the radar and it's gone, or what do you think? What do you think this is? You don't think much of it. What Shravan does he? His camera's off, but do you think?
Like one thing I like about Linux, which is different from Windows, is that for most distros, you have a centralized location where you get your packages. That is either your repos or FlatHab or snaps, like you said. And I personally use terminal for upgrading stuff. So it's very hard for me to install outside packages. Like I use AR packages, but I almost always read the package build and know what basically the source from where the package is getting is tarball. So for most part, like it's very hard for me to get a malicious package onto my system. And it's how people get their packages. I think that's important. Like having random PPAs and other things will get you more. It's higher risk of getting malicious packages, but using a standard repo, standard GUI package managers, and your terminal upgrades, I think that's the way to do it in Linux. And I've shifted that approach to Windows too. I use Chocolatey and Scoop for my packages mostly. Those are terminal-based Windows package managers. So I use that for installing like literally everything and upgrading stuff, even in Windows. I think I don't use sketchy websites anymore.
Yeah, I used to download like random RPMs like in the early Linux days because things weren't available and like for a codex, whatever. So I never got bit by it. But yeah, I stay away from those dodgy websites anymore. I think they're a lot more dodgy today than they were, in the early internet days. At least that's my opinion.
Well, they're a little more sneakier now. I mean, I'm guilty of a lot of Windows dodginess, trying
Yeah.
to, the old West. Let's get it for free. Why pay for it? And but that was like the real early 95, 98, when I was constantly tearing apart the system anyway. But yeah, I would get hit with something. It's like, oh, okay, time to nuke and pave again.
Oh, and you were nuking and paving Windows 95 and 98, huh?
Oh, all the time. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
only way that's how I learned. Because my wife wasn't into computers at all. She didn't want to deal with it. And my son was still too young. Turn on the do the dial up, and you hear the modem going, and he would run into the room and go, "Yellow Man," and because of the AOL commercials, and that was the extent of it. So
You've
I'm the
got
one
mail.
that was on a computer, so I just constantly, did a lot of saving and learned a lot. Forgot a whole lot of what I learned, but it was always interesting. But yeah, I would hit with something, and boy, that was stupid.
Now, go back in time and think, or and compare. So when you installed Windows 95 or 98, the installation process of that versus a modern Linux distribution, how much more difficult or less difficult is Windows 95, 98?
Well, 95, because at first, what you went from, was Windows 3, then 3.1, and then you would have to, have that installed in order to get Windows 95 going, and you would have like 10 or so floppies, which back in the day, the 3.5 inch floppies.
Yep.
Which a lot of Linux started out that way, but it was with the Windows floppies. I think there was I don't know how but you would only have so many times that you could reinstall the software before the floppy was rendered useless or wouldn't work. A friend of mine showed me how to. My next door neighbor was all into all that stuff and just started hitting these keys, and all of a sudden, boom, the next. But and then to get to Windows 98, and then you had the CD, and so there was a lot of long process, and it was not easy. even like Windows XP, if I ever decided to look and pave that and go from the start, the Windows installer was always horrible. As far as lengthy time, it was 45 minutes or so. When's the last time it took you 45 minutes to install anything Linuxy, even with one of the biggest ISOs out there? Outside, if you were installing maybe that um, Endless OS, with that 18 gigabyte um, download for all the programs. I mean, last time I reinstalled Windows 10 for my son, that was still about a 35-minute install. But it was on a little bit of a slower laptop compared to now. Yeah, it was Linux is nothing. Even the installers in most cases on a lot of these distros are so user friendly and so easy to install.
For sure. I don't remember how the process went anymore, but back in the 90s, when my operating system of choice was Amiga OS, because I was an Amiga user, and that was like 4 disks, 4 disks. That was the whole operating system. It was much simpler than the than Windows was at the time, and felt a lot peppier too. A lot less memory requirement as well. Although ultimately a lot less flexible of a operating system ultimately. So kind of tied to the hardware.
Yeah, looking at there was a link in your show notes for the Reddit thing, and one of the comments was 3 days ago. Note that Light Moon is currently only available for Windows. While this is still relevant here from a threat awareness perspective, this software doesn't currently pose a threat to Linux users, with an asterisk. And someone else said malware does, or Linux does exist outside of Android.
Yep.
But yeah, it is a concern. I mean, you just have to be careful, right? Just don't download anything. Watch everybody. There's the group out there. I would rather use a PPA than a snap. PPAs aren't always maintained or secure.
Yep, this is true.
If someone can think about it, there's a way to do it.
Yep. And I would say there's also a social responsibility for you to not do those things, because if you turn your computer into some kind of a bot or whatever for somebody to use in another nefarious way, you could unwittingly be the cause of some denial of service attack, distributed denial of service attack, or something else. And that's my biggest fear for IoT devices, is if those things are compromised, is my refrigerator going to be a bot on an attack for some other nefarious purpose, and could I potentially get in trouble for that? I mean, probably not, but it is clogging up my network as well. So
I think these days, I mean, it's could be another topic for another discussion, but I think it's more, you got to be more concerned about all the emails you get, the bills you got. Thank you for your $249 payment for McAfee or Norton or for Microsoft this or that, and the email is pretty innocuous. I mean, I always look at, half the time they're pretty crappy looking. That doesn't give you a warning right off the bat, but someone's probably going to look at the PDF. Oh, let me look at this bill, and then that PDF can lead to something else. I think you got to be at times more concerned about that than, kind of, that's where a lot of the malware will come from. They're not so much for dodgy sites. I'm always interested to see what that would lead to, but I'm not going to even remotely attempt to do that on any home system.
yeah, we get a lot more of those kind of really weird emails. They don't even look legitimate whatsoever. It's like whoever is doing these, they're not even doing a good job of trying to trick me. I mean, it's terribly written. It's not even in my language. I mean, who is your market that you're trying to get with this, and what kind of success rate have you had? Like, I'd like to know how many people have you actually swindled with these really poorly done emails?
Well, if they get $200 a day out of somebody, or for any of the thousands of emails and all that get sent out, $1,400 a week is not a bad income. it's it's going to be the uneducated. You're elderly, or that might be on a computer just to go on Facebook with their family and things like that. And so, oh my, I got charged $249. I gotta check this out, and then they call,
Mhm.
you know, and then the whole, well, let's see if we can. Let me switch over to my security department, and we'll see about um, see if your system has been compromised. Then that's what I get.
Right. Here's my IP address, and this is my password. Thanks for helping me.
Okay. We got some app news in here. Inkscape 1.2 was released.
Yes. I think that's pretty exciting.
Now, do you use
Now-
Inkscape a lot, or?
I've used it in the past. So Inkscape is really cool because of how you can do vector based graphics. So the equivalent in the in like commercial software would be like something like Adobe Illustrator. I don't know what the compatibility is between the two, and I think I'd like to find out. But some of the recent highlights where Inkscape documents can now hold multiple pages, which are made by the new page tool, managed by the new page tool. Editable markers and dash patterns, layers and object, dialog merge, some on-canvas alignment, snapping, and a snap setting redesign, which is good. I've used the snap setting before, although in Illustrator. But it's nice to see that there's more advancements happening to this, to Inkscape. I wonder if there's a point where it might be the de facto standard for doing vector-based design as opposed to the proprietary offerings out there.
I never really. I mean, I've had it installed on my systems several times just because it's there, and but I never got into like vector graphics, and I know there's a lot that's used out there. I think it's used more, and you can use it for more. So say, I got the T-shirt thing going, and you can make better designs for that can be used instead of like from an image.
Right. But the idea is you can, if you do vector drawings, then you can scale it to whatever size you want, and that's cool. It's not going to degrade based on the size because they're basically mathematically driven lines and so forth. So not really far from like doing CAD, except sort of 2D.
Is there a way to like convert a PNG to a vector based? Like assuming, let's say I have an icon which is big in PNG, can I convert it into vector based like in Inkscape or whatever?
I think there are tools for that, but I don't think they're perfect.
Okay.
So, but you could look into that. I know I've seen people do that, but then they have to do some cleanup work with the lines and so forth afterward. But it is a thing. It is a thing. Yeah, that M there will be really easy to do.
Like I've been thinking of doing some light DM customizations.
Okay.
Light DM GTK editor, like putting icons. I haven't like dived deep into it, but it's again for the ARM edition of Endeavor. But I'm still thinking how to do it, and will the existing logos which I have work? That's why I was asking you.
Yeah, I've not done that myself. I'm doing some very basic work with it, and so forth. So, and I'm still learning. So this is kind of an exciting thing for me, and in my process of learning. So that's kind of why I'm excited about it.
I've started using GIMP from like 2 weeks, like just adding logos to existing wallpapers, nothing too complicated. But it's fun. It's fun. It's a bit fun.
Yeah,
It's easy to use.
When I first started using GIMP, I liked using they have like a solar effect thing in there that you can use. You can add like just some neat effects. Just that they're just canned effects that you can just play with that I thought were fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been using GIMP for years. Even well before I started with Linux, I was using it on Windows. I think I had like 2.2.4 or whatever, and were a lot of real cool scripts. More back then than there are now. I don't know if it's harder to make now or if more of GIMP is easier, but there were some real cool scripts to use to get an image either cleaned up or different designs to it.
Yeah, GIMP. I learned GIMP. I don't know, probably about 18 years ago, and I didn't like the 3-panel design they had. I think it was about 5 years ago. So they introduced like a single window thing was an option. And then it kind of became the default.
Oh yeah, I didn't
So.
like that either. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a major photographer in any way, shape, or form, but it's perfect for what I need to make my thumbnails or stuff for OBS or Stream and that, and it's pretty functional.
Yeah, GIMP's pretty great. I think the biggest criticism I have for it is it's not proprietary enough. But other than that, it's pretty good.
You're right. A little more proprietary, some more like pay to play. That'd be much better.
Yeah. I need microtransactions for GIMP. I need like
Right. Yeah,
per brush. I need to
microtransactions would be
buy
good,
each
yes.
brush.
Yes. And then you have to have like a credit system for like if you do like create your own brushes, you have to like maybe
Yeah.
so many.
They can have like an in-app store kind of thing where you can buy other people's stuff and they'll take 80% of it. Yeah.
Right. But then they should be able to like kind of grind out to get internal points too. So if you're doing a lot of artwork stuff on it with the tools you have, then
That's
that
true.
you can earn.
They should have an achievement system.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sad part is this is just modern app development. Like we're being facetious, but these are all coming from a place. Like
right. Yeah, this is not actually happening in GIMP, but it's happening
but it's happening elsewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes it sad and funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess still the only thing bad about GIMP, I guess, is the name
and the non-destructive nature, or the destructive nature, the lack of non-destructive. Yeah.
I was I do a lot of I do when I do some of my lettering for my thumbnails and all that. I use beveling, and then I do a drop shadow. And what's nice now is you can do that, and then you go back to the text tool and click on what you've changed, and you get a dialog box that says something like basically you can revert back to regular text where you put years ago, right? You would have to just delete it and start all over again. So I think that's a decent function, and I guess they're just steps away from non-destructive. But I guess it depends on how you save it as, what you're gonna do with it. So like I'll save a lot of things in the XCF format, which is for GIMP, right? And it will still have all my layers and such. I don't know if non-destructive, like if you save it then as a PNG, if the non-destructive, you'll still have that same thing.
No. PNG would still not. It would not retain the metadata. It would just be the image.
Or as far as say with non-destructive, if there are changes that you made, you save it, you bring it back the next time, you can't revert back, right? So the non-destructive would be able to do that.
There's a lot to it from what I understand. Again, I'm not like professional at this at all, but
in a nutshell,
yeah,
it keeps track of your changes you do, and so when you revert the changes, it's more than just an undo system. It's not actually changing the.
Yeah, it's not. Everything's componentized basically, in that they're all like changeable in themselves without being like kind of solid, like kind of put in place, as it were. Like if you make a change that you can undo it, but like you can't, if you start doing other things, you would have to go back in the undo tree instead of just adjusting those things later. Just those kind of workflow things. I'm personally, if I were to use like one of those tools, I know they're not identical purposeful tools, but I definitely prefer using Krita, whatever, over GIMP.
I like it for some things, but I'm just kind of accustomed to GIMP at this point.
Yeah, they are two different apps, right? Like they do some of the same stuff, but I think for the stuff that I'd use those apps for, Krita is just a better experience.
Yeah, isn't it more of a paint program?
Yeah.
Initially, yeah, it can do other things, but that's the kind of main point. Yeah.
Again, it's whatever you get used to using.
So I have a graphics tablet, and I feel like Krita was more enjoyable for doing things like with the graphics tablet and pen, everything else. Like the harder you push, it would change like the
Yeah,
size of
pressure
your.
sensitivity.
Yeah, yeah. And it was in Linux too. Was not in anything else but Linux, of course. And I found that I enjoyed that more for so long time ago. I used to do a lot of cartooning. I used to do a lot of drawing, and so I just was playing with that, and that was more. I like doing it in Krita much more than in GIMP. But like when it comes to like photo editing, I preferred GIMP over Krita. So that was just. It's I kind of figure them. I kind of look at them as two different tools for two different functions.
Yeah, and they definitely are, but
With overlap, there's a lot of overlap.
there is overlap. Yeah.
So is anybody here like in the market for a new laptop?
Not anymore.
I'm thinking about it. Maybe
Yeah.
in the next year after I graduate.
Well, not to bring up HP again, but I'm going to. So HP Dev One are now offering Pop OS.
Yeah, I
think that's
saw
really
that.
interesting. Yeah, did you see that?
That's pretty neat. I like that.
I checked the hardware specs. It's good. I think it's an 8-core processor, AMD. I don't know which AMD it was.
AMD Ryzen 7
Seven.
5858.
Yeah,
It's a
and
58580U.
the display is not 4K. I'm not sure that matters or not, but it's a lower battery. I think it's only a 50 amp hour battery. So kilowatt hour, 60 watt hour battery.
Okay.
And then, so I don't know the battery life. Again, it's a 14-inch computer with a 2K screen. It's 1920, 1080. So
Yeah.
it's not that bad. So it would obviously take less power than a 4K screen. And it's not a touch screen. So, but it's a smaller battery and it's a 14-inch laptop. So that's the thing which is stopping me from buying both a framework and this one, because I prefer 15-inch laptops that gives me more screen real estate, and I can read stuff better if it is 15-inch, like opening PDFs and other stuff. But apart from that, I think the processor wise, it's really good. And there is some confusion, I think, about whether the RAM is upgradable or not. I would prefer if it is upgradable, because I still have confusion for my HP laptop. Like the official site says you can't upgrade RAM, but people have upgraded to 32 GB RAM in my exact model. So officially they said no, but you can. But that's a confusion with probably many HP models. But it's really promising. I think they got the lower cost because I think Pop is not as expensive as Windows. So that's why they were able to give a very aggressive pricing for a really good hardware. And fans of Pop like Steve would obviously enjoy having that laptop.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. I'm not in the mood I'm in the mood. I'm not in the market for a new laptop. But the thing that I think is interesting is that HP is using Pop OS. And does that seem like a conflict of interest in some ways for System 76?
No different than
no?
Microsoft. Like Microsoft makes Windows, and Windows is on a bunch of machines, but they also make their own machines, right?
That's true.
So
But
I
it makes
mean,
specific bespoke
And also
machines.
if you see, Nathan, if you see Pop's like hardware, I did some research on it when I was looking to maybe buy a Pop laptop. It's like for the desktops, they make them.
Right.
They actually make them.
Right.
But for laptops, they don't make them. They get it from somewhere. I forgot which company it was in China. So they get it from there. So I think you get directly shipped from China, or I don't know what happens there, but they don't make
their
laptops.
ODM designs. I think they're Clevo ODM designs.
Yeah, Clevo.
So that's why I would probably trust their desktop experience more than a laptops, because it seems that it's very generic sort of the laptop providing. It's like just another laptop with Pop. There's nothing like really special. I think maybe apart from core booter, I don't understand what core boot is, but I don't
Instead-
think it's like something pops out, but for the desktop, it's like they're really expensive out of my budget, but it's like it's pop. The System 76 desktop, they look really cool. So that's my take on it.
I got you. I mean, it's cool. I think it's nice to see HP is getting in the Linux game too. With yeah, I think that they don't offer Linux, do they? Any of their machines?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I think they do. I think they might have another dev, but it makes because one of the issues is the System 76 laptops are so pricey, for a Linux system, and that it not quite an entry level market, even at $1,100. It's not for maybe the average user, and maybe this is a partnership that will make Pop and System 76 be affordable to more in the future. I guess it's something that we'll have to watch and keep an eye on.
So you say that $1,100 is not the average user, but if you look at the amount of machines that Apple sells, and they don't sell anything cheap,
Yeah.
so I think the average user does spend about $1,000 on a laptop.
I probably should have prefaced it with the average Linux user.
Oh well, they take it out of a dumpster, so
Yeah.
it's
Right. Yeah.
And I have one question for you guys. Like, why do you think HP chose POP, which is based on Ubuntu rather than Ubuntu? So that's a maybe it's a deep conversation, but I found it interesting.
I think because the
And the
Linus
funny
Tech Tips
name.
had such a good experience installing Pop OS. that
Like
HP says
uninstalling
this
his
is what we're gonna
desktop
use.
shell.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we
Uninstalling
need to keep
install-
these guys out of our customer base. So let's
Like Linus Tech Tips literally uninstall the pop shell, installing
Yeah.
Steam. That was fun.
It was very funny. I thought that was incredibly amusing, and
Yep.
yeah, just that's absolutely hilarious when that happened.
yeah,
don't
it's
blame-
it quickly shows you like the fact that he typed in, yes, I'll do as I say or whatever, how little most Windows users even care when the UAC thing pops up for an administrator privileges and things like that, right? They're just like, yeah, come on, I'm trying to do something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
It's,
do you think Linux is becoming like that with the Flatpak and Snap things? Like more and more people are going towards graphical installers,
Well, yeah, for sure.
but it's like Flatpak commands. If you try to even run them in the CLI, it's like complex. It's like arg.free desktop. Like what?
That's actually what I really dislike about Flatpak is just how obtuse the commands are in the CLI.
Yeah.
I thought Pac-Man was obtuse, but nah.
And it's funny because like no one seems to agree on like the naming convention of these things, right? Like there's like snap remove and flatpak uninstall and DNF erase, and it's like, yeah, we have a bunch of names, we have a bunch of words for the same thing, but can we just use one word? Like, can everything just be uninstall or everything be remove? Like,
I think install and remove, I think those are much simpler names.
or like apt update and apt upgrade. Like,
Yeah,
we know
that's
what they mean, right? But like
no,
those-
Adam. when
those
I
two
first
different
started
things are-
I was
Well, what-
confused. What the heck is update and upgrade? Why are they different? I was like super confused.
Updates like the cache, basically
Yeah, I know
the
now.
cache, and then upgrade then actually does the
Yep.
work.
yeah, we
And
know what
to-
it is, but like you can see how easily confusing that
Yeah,
wording
Yeah,
is, right?
that was confusing for me early on. And I think I think the syntax of zipper is probably the best. I think DNF is good. I think as a technology it's good, but I think it needs some aliases to really fix it because it's just got some silliness in there.
And I think Pac-Man syntax is obtuse, but once you get used to it, you know what exactly those S's and Y's are. It's way faster, like less characters to type.
All right, LQ Larry is now trolling in the chat. He says, "Need Flatpak, tac capital S Y U, or snap capital R S
He's trolling.
N." Yeah. Well
And
done. Well done, LQ Larry. Well done.
I have something funny regarding that. Like someone
Love
in
it.
Endeavor forums had alias of Yay as Yay and flatback upgrade. So it was using Yay as some
Funny.
neofish or whatever. It was not doing anything. It's like
I alias
Background
yay to
upgrades.
woohoo.
Someone actually did that, Larry. Flatback upgrade -s by mistake.
Yeah, I think we'll eventually sort these things out like in the next 50 years or so in Linux. So it'll be fine.
Yeah, when desktop's no longer reliable and
We're not,
yeah,
well,
it's not even relevant. Yeah,
and we're not, and mobile devices are a thing of the past. We all have
yeah,
Neuralink or something.
we're all
like
computing
that.
on our fingernails.
Yeah. A little actually it just projects up into the air.
Yeah.
Or it's like Inspector Gadget. You actually pull the antenna out of your thumb. Hello.
I'm always on duty.
Well, isn't that the remake of Total Recall? They had the phone in their hand and you see it light up, and you talk like this.
I'm gonna be a little dystopian here. So Inspector Gadget's phrase was he's always on duty. Was that like a precursor? Was that sort of like a foreshadowing of like always
It was.
being like like available on your phone, right? That like foreshadowing like labor relations, like you're
Yep.
always going to be working.
Yep. The 40-hour weeks are a thing of the past. You
Yep.
you are working from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. Congratulations.
Yeah. And
Isn't
we're mining
technology
Bitcoin
great?
on your brain when you're sleeping.
Right. Yeah. The power consumption would be too high on that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Why do I keep getting a fever? Like,
I can be making some comments on that, but
It'd be a great weight loss plan, I suppose.
maybe.
Because like most of the calories that we consume actually go to drive the brain for most people.
And the heart too.
Right. Yeah, the heart. Yeah. Maybe it's not most, but a large percentage. I mean, if you're physically active, it's obviously different. But like
That explains why I gained weight so easily.
Stop thinking.
I had low brain function plus overeating.
Yeah. You just need to think harder. Do more Sudoku.
Yeah. Commit Sudoku.
Sounds like a command. So here's a question. Are you guys familiar with the Framework laptop?
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, do you think that if you're buying a laptop and you have this HP with Pop OS on it for essentially $1,100, or for a couple more $100 you can get a Framework laptop similarly spec'd, what would you go with?
Probably the HP one. I can't
Really?
guarantee. So the unique selling point of the Framework is like the modules and the upgradability, and they've been around for a little while now, not super long,
like
but
a year.
yeah. And I've seen it in the past where like Alienware, for example, had laptops where you could upgrade the graphics card, but they just decided, where it's just not enough people doing it. It's not worth the engineering to make these things work, so they stopped caring, right? And then they went to
Mhm.
external ones, and even their external ones use like this graphics amplifier. I don't even know if their new laptops even come with that port anymore. So like so often you have these like upgrade paths that sound really great, and it's like, man, this will be great, but 3-4 years down the line, 5 years, when you get ready to actually upgrade the components, like, oh wait, this company doesn't exist, or they only make the new upgrades for the newer versions, or there's always something that gets in the way. And so like the unique selling point of it sounds good, and like it kind of hits you in the feels of like, yeah, it's upgrading, it's not e-waste and all this other stuff. But at the same time, I've seen it so many times that like I'm not gonna jump in on that. I'd just go with HP, a company that has a good history of making machines. They've had hits and misses in the past, don't get me wrong, but like they're an established brand, they're an established company, they're an established name. I feel like I would get better support overall. I don't know. It's just I couldn't go for these niches, and that's not to go on a tangent, but that's partially why I wouldn't buy like a System 76 machine. Same kind of thing. Like it's just like, yeah, you guys have been around for a bit, but it's just like the economies of scale there are just totally different, and I just don't think that we could. I couldn't trust myself to that.
I think that's fair.
Well, I think if you were buying a System 76 Stelios, because they've been making that in house pretty much for quite a few years now. But yeah, the laptops, if they're you're never gonna know what memory is in there. hardware will be able to, you know, they don't control it like when you're talking about your Apple products, how they control pretty much every, you know, every aspect of the build of their machines.
But Adam, if the hardware specs are the same, like the physical shape of the motherboards they're designing are the same, so why won't 5 years later, if the company is still there, have like upgradable motherboards for
So that-
newer?
You glossed over the whole point is if the company is still there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's the whole point. If
Yeah.
the company is still there. Like,
They
yeah,
seem to have a
if I
very-
knew for a fact that the company was going to be around for the next 10, 20 years, yeah, that would make sense. Framework would make sense, but I can't make that guarantee. And I've seen it in the past where these kind of things fail. I've seen phones that were supposed to be modular. I've seen computers, laptops, all this stuff, and it's just never worked. So call me cynical or jaded or whatever, but like that just how many times does this have to happen until people are like, this just isn't how it works, right?
Right.
It's been a
Like-
couple of years now, right? They
Yep.
released 2000
there
or
is a second
2020,
model too.
2021. Yeah.
Yep. I think one thing that they're doing good, sort of, is that they have only one model. Again, that's one thing I don't like too, because they have just a 14-inch model. And I think they'll stick to 14-inch. And the way you do the orders is that they order in batches. So once you
Mhm.
order, you get put in a batch, and maybe 6 weeks later they ship you in a single batch for multiple people. I don't know what the batch size was. So that's how they're doing for now. So I think there are a lot more demand than supply for now. I don't know how sustainable that is, if they become more popular. If that, it's mostly positive reviews for now. There are not as many negative reviews. There are some bad things too, but the way they're going is sustainable. But I don't know what their profits are. So if it is not profitable, them selling at this price, then that company won't last. But if it is profitable and they're able to do this, they can probably increase the batch size and get more, and then they can have like a store.
So also looking at it from a technical perspective, you have the issue of like, okay, they're currently shipping, say, like a gigabit Ethernet or USB 3 or something like that. Let's say in the next 5 years, you know, because usually people don't bother upgrading anything until, you know, anywhere between 3 and 7 years, right?
Yeah.
So let's say 5 years in the middle of that somebody looks to upgrade. Well, what now if like the new USB spec or the new PCI Express spec doesn't fit the old machine, right? So now they want to make new modules for the newer technologies that people want, but that those newer technologies are not actually compatible with the motherboards, with the chipsets and stuff that are in their existing older laptops. So now you have like, oh, well, I want to get this, you know, 10 gig Ethernet thing, but it requires PCI Express 4. Well, the old one's PCI Express 3. So now I have to upgrade to the newest framework, which is like the same as just buying a new laptop.
No,
But
actually, it would
it's
be
half the price.
a new
It's half the
motherboard.
price.
So the idea is that you just replace your motherboard,
Yep.
you move it to the next level.
It's $600.
So the board itself is replaceable?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Every
Entire
aspect of it
motherboard
is.
Game changer.
So that's the
Yeah,
good thing.
slightly
I like
different.
about it.
Yeah, I didn't realize the whole like board was changeable.
So whenever you want to
Yeah.
upgrade your CPU, you have to replace your entire motherboard.
I mean, that makes sense. They're usually ball grid array, but
Yeah, especially in laptops, that makes sense, right?
then like you said, $600. I mean, it's
Yeah.
cheaper than $1,000 laptop, but
Yeah, I think they're.
but then
normal
like,
price
you
is
know, by the time,
$300.
yeah, the prices would that's the other part, I guess, the economies of scale, right? Like the
Yeah.
prices would have to come down, but then like I'm just kind of curious, like why, like it's a totally it's kind of blown my brain away, the idea of just replacing the whole board.
Really takes
It's not
light
as
repair
cheap.
to another level.
Yeah,
Yep.
it does.
They would always be constrained to the thermal limitations of the chassis, though.
Yes.
So
Well,
that
they got to
could-
start. Yeah, sure. They have to start somewhere. This is not a. Gonna
Yeah.
be, I mean, this isn't going to be a gaming laptop. This is going to
But
be
yeah,
a
like
laptop.
right now, I wouldn't buy into that because I don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years, right?
Right. What's
That's
interesting too is they've open sourced a lot of the specs on it too, so you can build your own modules for it.
That's neat.
I think they open source the motherboard too.
Oh, did they? Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know what to do with those.
Okay.
Break out the breadboard.
So great stuff. I just want to we're going to close out in a little bit, but I just want to move quickly to time shift, since I mentioned it earlier about what am I going to do about backups.
Yeah.
And so Linux Mint is the new developer for Timeshift. There has been some interesting news as of late regarding the popular open source backup tool, Timeshift, and that is that Linux Mint is taking over development of Timeshift. Timeshift was created and has been maintained by a very talented developer named Tony George. Unfortunately, Tony is unable to continue development of Timeshift in the same way, so he decided to strictly bug fix and maintain updates in that. So Linux Mint now, which is still going strong. It's still, it's like there's a lot of people that use Linux Mint, but it doesn't seem to be talked a lot about. You know, so what do you think about Linux Mint taking over Timeshift? I know they took over, or they didn't take over, but they developed their own ICE application based on ICE. Peppermint.
But I think that's fine. I mean, as long as they're good custodians of it and they don't make it so they lock it into Linux Mint itself, it seems like that's fine.
Yep,
I mean,
I'm with that.
So and generally speaking, I would say overall, I think a lot of these larger projects, and I would consider Mint a larger project at this point. They're usually good custodians of whatever they're working on. They're not going to I'm trying to think of more of a rated G style word here. They're not going to mess over the rest of the community because it doesn't do them any good to do that. If they're not getting like help from, let's say, people from the Arch community who use Timeshift, we're big fans of that. There might be some support that maybe not be as good of an experience, but I don't see them purposefully blocking anything. I mean, it would do them no good to do that. It is literally like it would benefit them none.
And I guess Linux Mint his system snapshots are now at the heart of their update system strategy, and with Timeshift as a core component, that update strategy, it'll probably be a big it will be done well and done right.
And also, Steve, you said Linux Mint is not talked about a lot. Don't they have Mintcast?
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's like as far as I know, in the world out there, yeah, when the new Linux Mint is out, or the Linux Mint Debian edition is out, it gets some publicity. But I guess maybe because it's just such a well-run, for those that like the Cinnamon desktop and all that, it's a well-rounded distribution, and it's still a go-to for anybody starting out in Linux. That's for sure.
Yeah, but one thing is, like, many content creators try to suggest other things which I don't like. I think they should suggest other new users to use Linux Mint and distros like that instead of other flashy stuff they think is user friendly, but in reality it's not. Maybe it's because Linux Mint is not flashy, people don't like talking about it, but it should be otherwise, like, because it's solid. It should be recommended to new users. Like, you don't need flashy things. You just need a system that works and works well.
Yeah, I agree. A system that works well, is really, I mean, most people are not, down in the weeds and talking about the GTK versus Qt toolkits and whatnot. Nope. No normal person cares about that. I mean, no offense to those that do. I'm one of those people. But I was thinking about it. Like, I remember having these discussions, Amiga versus Windows back in the 90s with my friends when I was, a teenager. And I had one Mac friend, one Windows friend, and me, the Amiga guy, who obviously lost. Now went Linux. But anyway, and so we had these discussions. And no normal people had these discussions. Nobody cares. They just want to play their games and get on with life, But I like this nerdy stuff. I guess I've always been a bit of a technology enthusiast. Thanks to Jack Trammell. So thank you, Jack Trammell. He started Commodore. So.
Oh, we're getting close to that 2-hour mark. So there's always more to discuss. But go ahead, Nate.
Yeah. So tonight we're still gonna have the regular Linux Saloon. we are going to talk about the Ubuntu 2204 flavors, the unofficial flavors. So I'm really excited about that. I've been playing with Unity, and I won't say anything about it now, but we're going to talk about, I think it's Unity, Cinnamon, and I think there's one other. I lost it, but the only one I cared about is Unity, and we're talking about those tonight. And
Is it
next,
a nostalgia in it? Like, why are people so excited about Unity? Is it just nostalgia?
so for me, it's something that's not GNOME, Plasma, and XFCE. Now that sounds like a terrible reason, and it is, but nonetheless, it's my reason. So Unity really they really changed the game in the desktop market. I never actually was a big Unity fan in and of itself, but they changed the user experience for people, for Linux. They really pushed it. They pushed the envelope, and a lot of things that they did, other desktop environments basically adapted a lot of those ideas and incorporated them. So Unity never really died. Some people might say it did. It still exists as a desktop environment, but a lot of the ideas, the unique aspects of it, many of the unique aspects of it have been absorbed into other desktops because they created a lot of really good ideas. So, yell at Ubuntu and say all kinds of nasty things that they're, this, that, or the other thing, not have it not invented here attitude or whatever. They still brought a lot to desktop Linux, and maybe even and those things trickled into Windows too. So you could say Unity even had an effect on Windows. So that said, Unity it's a neat look. It's at an ideal desktop paradigm that a lot of people used, a lot of people enjoyed. It was very unique, and it set Linux apart, and it was essentially the look of Linux for quite some time. And that's kind of my attitude. I might be way off on that. You might think I'm crazy. And the Unity made me go to OpenSUSE for several years, Leviticus. I mean, I'm still on OpenSUSE.
Is that a good thing or a bad?
It doesn't matter. It is what it is. So it's looking at Unity. I would never use Unity on the regular. I certain things I don't like about it, but it's fun for me to play with. That's really what it boils down to. And then next week, we're going to have another application appetizer. So if you have any ideas, any suggestions for applications that we should try, please send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com or send them to Steve. I don't know how to send him things outside of Telegram. I didn't even know his email.
Steve's very own at gmail.com. Oh my God, Gmail. I can't send a Gmail.
Oh, man. I'll send you a Gmail from my Gmail. I'll send you a Gmail from my Gmail that I won't admit having in public.
I guess we'll wrap it up. We'll do the last call, and many of our other friends are not here. We're gonna go cry. I know Rick, your Linux Girl guy, has been off the last couple of weeks on vacation, so he hasn't done anything. I'm not sure if he's going to be back this week. I thought he only was going to be gone for 2 weeks, but we shall see. Maybe he'll join us tonight. Mark with the Atlanta user group usually shows up on Saturday nights. Me, I will be on in the morning. Next week, I'm going out of town with my family, so no show next week. And I'm going to talk about Easy Linux.
Easy Linux?
Easy Linux. So you have to stay tuned for that. Destination Linux will have a live stream tomorrow afternoon. Was it at 1 o'clock Eastern, noon Central? I'll figure out the rest of the world. Linux User Space has been on a hiatus. And Nate, what's up for Linux Out Loud?
So we talk about paying for the Linux distribution you use. Would you? Well, I'm still editing it. It's instead of Wendy this week. So if it's not as good, make sure you send your complaints to Matt. And then you can find out more stuff about me at cubiclenate.com.
So I want to thank all of you for being a part of the conversation in both the Zoom meeting and YouTube stream, as well as everyone for watching the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts the personal back into personal computing.
One thing real quick.
Sure.
Real quick. So Southeast Linux Fest is happening this coming week. I'm actually going to go to it.
Ooh, nice.
This is the actual official announcement. I've been actually coordinating with Leviticus a little bit. And so I just want to throw that out there. I don't know why it slipped my mind, but Leviticus reminded me because he's another one of those like those heiresses that keep me on track.
I'll be halfway there, but we're just going as far as Metropolis.
Is that where Superman lives?
Yep. Superman Festival. All right, so thank you all for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Till next time,
See yous.
see ya.
Bye.